I am Curran Bhatia chatting with Mark Shunock. You've seen him on Top Rank Boxing. You've seen him many other places. Mark Shunock, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, brother, thank you so much for having me on. Always a pleasure to catch up in this way. I got to work on my background here. Clearly, I need a better home Zoom studio.
We'll send you some stuff. Don't worry about that. You're on the road every week. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
You're one of the hardest working men in television. Been seeing you out here at some of these great fights. Top Rank, ESPN, of course, doing their thing. They're rolling. We actually have a fight coming up this weekend. It's a really interesting card. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So Robesi Ramirez is headlining. Now, if people don't know his story, he's actually a two-time gold medalist in the Olympics. That tells you so much you have to know. He also defeated Shakur Stevenson in the Olympics, which is amazing. He defected from Cuba. Lost his pro debut, which actually could happen to a lot of that happened to Bernard Hopkins, that happened to Juan Manuel Marquez, and he's won 13 straight since. And he's taking on Rafael Espinoza, who they're both 29 years old, both in their prime. Now, I saw this, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. And I know you'll be doing introductions and press conferences and things with these fighters. I saw that Ramirez listed at 5'6". Espinoza is undefeated. He's listed at 6'1". So that's a 7-inch height advantage. Espinoza's from Mexico. He's a tough fighter, of course. That's going to be a big advantage for Espinoza going into this. This is a close fight, right?
I think it's an extremely close fight. I think it's an exciting card, top to bottom, and it's our first time going to this venue in Florida. So I'm all about heading to Florida out of this cold weather in the Vegas desert right now. So, like you said, he lost his pro debut, but the kid has just mad skills. And I've been privileged to see every one of his professional fights ringside. And, when he gets into the ring, there's a switch that gets flipped. And I've asked this of a lot of young fighters, right? Because we want to see them succeed. You want to see your stable of young prospects be successful. And sometimes, and this, sitting ringside, you get frustrated watching some of these fighters because you're like, I know you have another gear. Why aren't you flipping this switch? I don't think Ramirez has ever had a problem flipping the switch, except for maybe his pro debut. And as you mentioned, it's common. Sometimes it happens where they're just sort of overwhelmed by the moment of making their professional debut. And, I think he got knocked down. And I think the first round was just sort of like a random punch that got him and caught him off guard. He got knocked down. And in those 4-round fights, it's hard to play catch up in 4 rounds when you get popped. But this kid has some mad skills. And I think this is going to be a brawl. To your point, his opponent has, I think, would you say 6 inches on him? He's a big dude.
6 or 7 inches. He's Rafael Espinoza, 21-0, 18 knockouts from Mexico in his prime, 29 years old. I mean,
it's going to be a
worthy opponent. Yeah.
I think these are fights that, can really set you up for the next step, right? It's a big time challenge. We know this kid is not going out of there easy. He's coming to fight. It's in Florida. The place is going to be packed. And, it's just, again, I'm a kid in a candy store walking into a brand new venue. Xander Zayas on the undercard. It's going to be a great weekend for boxing in Florida. And I'm just really excited to see this main event. Really, these guys are just going to bring it. It's going to be a battle. And we all know Mexican fighters, they don't lay down. And it's Cuba, Mexico. Let's go. Let's get it on.
It's a competitive main event, both fighters in their prime. I'm really looking forward to it. We were talking about fighters who flipped the switch. I was fortunate to call fights in October, and one of the for Top Rank and ESPN International, and one of the fighters on that card was Keyshawn Davis. And I mentioned that during the broadcast. That's one of the things I said. It's always interesting to see when he flips that switch. And it seems like a lot of the great fighters have that. And speaking of young great fighters, you mentioned Xander Zayas. I wanted to ask you about him. This kid's a phenom, only 21 years old, 17-0, 11 knockouts. He's representing Puerto Rico. And the one thing, you spent a lot of time with Xander Zayas at press conferences, at weigh-ins, at fights. I wanted to ask you about this. Not only does he perform in the ring, but he has a great head on his shoulders. And he totally gets it in terms of making himself into an authentic star, right? Someone personable, someone that you can have a conversation with, who understands the vision, who's humble, who's hungry. I mean, what have you gotten from spending time with Xander Zayas?
All of that. Yeah, you're saying exactly who he is. He's a well-spoken young man, and he understands his journey, which I think is very important. I think a lot of times young fighters don't have the patience or that stamina, the understanding of the journey, the task at hand. And I think Xander gets it. He's not forcing the issue. He's rolling with the punches, no pun intended. But he handles himself in such a way that you called it, man. He walks into a room and you see a superstar in the sport emerging. Again, he's going to, as these fights move along in his career, he's going to get tested. He's going to have better opponents, better challenges ahead of him. I think this is one of them. But from a gentleman standpoint, it's rare to see that type of composure at that early age, 21 years old. Like there's no BS in his game, right? Like he's not on social chirping like you see other young kids. Like it just doesn't exist. And I think that has a lot to do with his camp, his management. He already has some pretty high-end endorsement deals from what I understand. So I'm a fan. Obviously, again, I'm biased because I've been able to work every one of his fights since he signed with Top Rank. So I've seen the journey. I have a better understanding of the matchmaking and then how Top Rank is grooming him to become the next Puerto Rican superstar. He already is. Last time I was in New York, last year for Puerto Rican Day Parade, I'm on a float with this kid, and I'm watching him handle that Puerto Rican Day Parade. There's no bigger Puerto Rican celebration in the United States than what goes down in New York City. And I think he was the co-feature on that card, and we were riding a float together, and I was just in awe of him, and at that time, I think he was 19, 20 years old. I'm like, geez. So again, two incredible young men that are headlining this card this weekend in Florida. And I tip my cap to them. Just what they are doing for the sport of boxing is fantastic. These are the next superstars in the sport. And I'm just privileged to be able to sit ringside and watch them do their thing. Listen, it's the hurt game. That's what it is, right? And they go in the ring every other, fight, and they're risking their lives, doing what they do, putting food on the table. And at the end of the day, it's a business. And these two are definitely handling their business. They've got great people in their camps, both of them. And it's just an honor and privilege to watch these kids do what they do. And it's crazy. They're kids. Not so much our because he's, like you said, he's 29 years old, but to see Zayas at 21 years old perform at the level that he's performing at, and to me, it's dangerous, right? Because I don't even think he's come into his true man strength yet. Like when you see what he's doing as a 21-year-old, what the heck's he going to be doing at 24, 25, 26? Like the guy's going to be a beast. And, he keeps improving his game, keeps working on his defense. I think he's the next big one for Puerto Rico for sure.
Sky's the limit for Xander Zayas, and signed with Top Rank when he was just a teenager, and he's showing why now. Just an absolute phenom, both, in the ring, out of the ring. We were talking about young fighters, and we've seen you, of course, ring announcing for Top Rank, but also hosting these press conferences, and you get to spend time with a lot of these young fighters. And I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, there's so many on the roster: Keyshawn Davis, Jared Anderson, Shakur Stevenson, Richard Torres Jr., Bruce Carrington. I mean, it goes on and on. And one thing that you get to do is have some fun with these fighters. It's interesting because sometimes we'll see fighters in a more of a stoic manner. Like you might see a Jared Anderson being like, hey, I just want to make my money. I want to get out of the sport. But then you also see him maybe a little bit more emotional. There was the piece with him and Roy Jones, and you could see the emotion there for Jared Anderson. So I just wanted to get your take. There's fighters that are always outspoken, always, saying interesting, fun tidbits at press conferences like Keyshawn Davis. What's it like for you to see this young stable, not just in the ring, but also see their personalities at these press conferences and be around these young fighters?
You said the word personality, right? And that's such a big component to all professional sports. I'm a big hockey fan, right? I love the sport of hockey. I work for the Vegas Golden Knights out here. And I can be honest, hockey players sometimes aren't the greatest in the personality department, right? Like they're boring. They come to work, they put on a hockey outfit, and they go skate around. And I think that's sort of detrimental to the sport because we can't leverage these great athletes because their personalities are so stifled. You look at the NBA, these guys rolling in every game night. They're wearing what represents them, their personality coming through. They do great interviews. Same in boxing. And I'm privileged again, because I get to sit with these guys, and Top Rank does a great job of putting them in front of the camera early so we can start to learn and see who these kids really are. And for me, the approach that I always take for these press conferences is just to come at, I don't want to feel like I'm part of the media with them. I want them to feel comfortable around me. I want our conversations to always be conversational. And that's why you sometimes see some goofy one-liners come from me, or from them for that matter, because I want to put them at ease. You know, I want them to feel as though this is their moment. They can really own this time. Because at the end of the day, whether I'm ring announcing or hosting a press conference, it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm always in black in the ring when I'm ring announcing, because it's about their moment, right? I'm just there to introduce them, get them ready for the war that they're about to enter. Press conference, it's the same approach. I want to make it about them. I want to make sure that we start with some easy questions so they can get grounded. Those sort of butterflies, their jitters in their stomach about being possibly nervous on television goes away. And then that personality, like you said, just comes out. I've had incredible conversations with Richard Torres, joking about jumping out of airplanes, his mustache, all sorts of goofy stuff. And Tiger Johnson, same thing. All those guys that are just now learning what it's like to be a star in the sport of boxing. They're not there yet, but you're starting to see these personalities come out that are what will eventually draw more fans to their game. Because at the end of the day, they do their talking with the gloves in the ring. But the press conferences, as you know, the weigh-ins, it's all about building up to Saturday night in the ring. And I think the more we can pull and get their personalities to come out, the better. The more tickets will sell, the more fans will go to their social media and give them a follow. And everybody's looking for a good soundbite, man. I'm just trying to tee it up.
Speaking of a good soundbite, I want to ask you about one, but let me just mention, you mentioned Richard Torres Jr. and there's a new Top Rank piece out now. It's going to be on Top Rank socials and ESPN as well. It's called The Gentleman Boxer, about Richard Torres. He's a heavyweight. He's got a great head on his shoulders. We spoke to him at fighter meetings. He'll come in and shake everyone's hand. Definitely a gentleman, definitely a great personality. And I think, to your point, at the end of the day, man, it's all about storytelling, and we want to get fans and other people involved in these people's journeys, because these are athletes who are risking their lives and competing at the highest level. And if you can get the storytelling part where you can learn their authentic personalities, I think it makes it easy to root for a lot of these kids, a lot of these young fighters that we spoke about. I wanted to ask you about a funny moment that happened at a press conference, and how much you remember of this. Keyshawn Davis versus Anthony Yiggett. I was there for it live. Obviously you want to inject the some levity into it. Also, you don't want it to just be a stone-faced press conferences with people saying predictable sound bites, right? So I'm sure that was part of that moment as well.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the moment where he turned around and was paying attention to the knockouts, our ring girls more so as opposed. Yeah, and I told him, I said, "Hey, dig it, your eyes are over here," something along those lines, because with Tiana or Stephanie, Rachel, one of them standing behind him when we do the press conferences, the girls flank the guys on the stools, and I think he turned around and he spent a good 30, 60 seconds staring at the knockout. And I said, "Hey, Yiggett, turn around, face forward." And
to be fair, the context being it was cold in Newark, New Jersey, and Anthony Yiggett turned around, and just to get confirmation, "Hey, it's cold in here," and then you immediately chime in. You said, "Eyes up front, Yiggett,"
we were at the Prudential Center, and it was chilly. Obviously, I think the Devils played the night before, and it was cold in the concourse area where we were hosting the press conference. And obviously the knockouts are in the outfits, uniforms that they wear. So they were probably colder than all of us. I think he was just genuinely concerned for one of the girls, wanted to maybe offer his jacket or something.
In the NBA, the game can change in an instant. But no matter how the action unfolds, DraftKings Sportsbook has your back. This week, new customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets just for betting $5 on basketball. Win or lose, you get that instant dub. And if you go on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, there's tons of different game lines, quick same game parlays. They make it easy on there. You can even put some money down on the in-season tournament. A lot of exciting things going on with the NBA and DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code CURRAN, CURRAN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on basketball. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code CURRAN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/basketball terms. To be fair, this is part of what we're talking about. It's like, fighter like Anthony Yiggett, or he was taking on Keyshawn Davis, showcasing your personality, having fun up there. And that's a big part of what we're talking about. And I think that it's good that we're seeing that more and more in these press conferences, and making, these fighters more accessible, seeing the human side to these fighters, not just them competing in the ring like the gladiators that they are. I wanted to ask you about, you spoke about your role in these fights. You mentioned you wear all black, and it's your job to basically give these fighters their moment. And you've been doing that at the highest level, some of the biggest fights in boxing on Top Rank and ESPN. And there's a few moments that actually stood out to me recently, and I wanted to just get your thoughts of kind of your mindset as you knew you were announcing some of these folks. So we were talking about the Puerto Rican fans and how they come out in New York. And Edgar Berlanga was fighting in New York for a long time in Madison Square Garden. Same with Xander Zayas. And as a ring announcer, you're going to go through a lot of different things, the record, things like that. But the hometown. And when you say Puerto Rico, especially in New York, that there's going to be a lot of fans in attendance, and the effect that saying that is going to have. Another one that I was there for live as well. Shakur Stevenson representing Newark, and you made the choice to not say Newark, you said Brick City, right? Maybe more commonly known as. So I'm just curious to your mindset of when you are announcing these fighters, especially when they're in their hometown, and hey, do you put an extra emphasis on some of those things like that, knowing the crowd is going to respond and rally behind their fighters?
Yeah, and again, truthfully and transparent, I'm fortunate because I'm with them for 3 days leading up to the fight, right? I'm not just coming in to do ring announcing Saturday night. I get to host the press conference. I also host the weigh-ins. So by the time we get to Saturday night, I've probably had a half a dozen to a dozen interactions with the fighter or their camp. And so there becomes this camaraderie on both sides, both corners, right? They'll come to me. They'll come up to me at dinner or at lunch and just want to shoot the shit and sit at the table and talk. And then they'll say, hey, would you mind doing this, and this? And so they'll start giving me their 2 cents on what they want to hear. A trainer, a manager, somebody could come up to me and say, hey, Mark, can you put a little emphasis on this? And so what I end up doing is, I type everything out. I print it well ahead of the fight night, and it's on my cards. And sometimes I'll return to them and show them what I have planned just to make sure it's okay. Just simply because I don't want to say something that could impact their mental state seconds before they're about to go at it, right? And so I just try to do the courtesy, the genuine thing of just making sure that what's coming out of my mouth is what they want. Because how awful would that be if you're like all gung-ho, ready to beat the crap out of somebody and the ring announcer messes up your introduction? This isn't the WWE. It's not scripted. This isn't a fake. This is real life. And these guys, like you said, are risking their lives, and that moment is about them. So I want to give them what they want. And I do it for the blue and red corner. There's no difference here. I want to make sure that, they're each getting that moment the way they want it to be. I love that preparation. That's part of something that I've come to really love is, I've started working now already, the last couple of days on what this weekend's going to look like. And it's just part of the sport that I absolutely love. And, we talked about this already, but I've just been able to be with these guys since day one, some of them. And so it's nice to see that evolution of their game. And it's also nice for me to learn and grow and have my game evolve as well, so that as they get to the point where some of these young guys are fighting for titles, it's A, it's deserved, and B, the fighter and I now have a rapport because I've literally had a press conference and an introduction into the ring with them 20 times, 25 times. So they're accustomed to hearing me say what I say. Xander's one of those kids that he gets into this sort of, side to side rhythm. And he knows exactly where I'm going now when I'm doing his ring announcement. And he waits for it, and he can sense what's coming. And again, like I said, I just make sure that I'm not messing up any name pronunciations, where they're from. I'm from Canada originally, and I speak French, so the Spanish isn't that far off. I'm no Bernardo Osuna by any means, but Babbel has been downloaded onto the phone, because that's one of my goals for 2024 is to get a little better in the Espanol department, so that I can interview these guys and not need a translator. But it's like I said, man, I'm a kid in a candy store with these guys, and I want to do right by them, honestly. And I'm just, such a prideful moment for me to know that these guys trust me now. We have a relationship, a rapport, and it's something that I certainly don't take for granted. And just grateful to Top Rank and ESPN for the opportunity.
These are such important moments for these fighters. You think about how many times in life, a fighter is going to be on a national or global stage fighting for a big opportunity. Yeah. And so obviously, our job is, someone who calls the fights or ring announcing, things like that, is just to enhance that and help these people have that moment to the best of their ability. You mentioned Canada, and I wanted to talk to you about, I've interviewed you in the past. We talked a little bit about your journey, acting, comedy. I know you spent some time in New York City, everything that you've done, the hockey work, everything. How did everything you've done in the past prepare you for some of the work that you do now?
That's a great question, man. Like I said, when I in my late teens, I was a hockey player. I was a goaltender in the Canadian Hockey League, and just like every other Canadian, you want to raise the Stanley Cup. That didn't work out, obviously. So a new career path. I ended up, diving into the Broadway community, and I was very fortunate enough to be a part of some massive Broadway shows, The Lion King, Rock of Ages. The big show Rock of Ages brought me to Vegas. That's how I ended up here. Pivoted to the Golden Knights when, they announced they wanted to bring a pro hockey team to Las Vegas. I was performing nightly at the Venetian, and I literally cold called Fidelity Financial, Bill Foley's office. And I said, hey, I want to help bring a pro hockey team to Vegas. I'm from Canada. What can I do? And I've been a part of that franchise for about 9 years. The team's played for 7, but for 2 years, I was on the Vegas Wants Hockey Committee. Our job was just to encourage people to do a season ticket deposit for a team that didn't exist. From that point on, they found out about my entertainment background. I became the in-arena hype guy, so to speak, for the Golden Knights. And I've been doing that since day one. And then Todd DeBoeuf from Top Rank came to a hockey game. He's a big hockey fan. And in season 1 of the Golden Knights, I got a call from Nick Khan at CAA Sports saying, hey, we represent Top Rank Boxing and ESPN. We want to meet with you. Flew back to LA for a quick meeting, and the rest is history. I've been with Top Rank for 6 years. When Top Rank went into the bubble is when I sort of got thrown to the wolves a little bit. During the pandemic, Top Rank was one of the first to do a bubble in sports, all of sports. Then the NBA followed suit. And that's when I sort of got thrown into the ring announcing bit, because up to that point, I was just hosting press conferences and weigh-ins, and they threw me in the ring, not virtually. I was on a podium outside of the ring for, COVID regulations. But that's where I really got my feet wet. And, to be honest, I got more reps as a ring announcer in 2 months than I think most ring announcers get in 3 years. We were doing fights every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 months, and we had 6 to 8 fights on every card. So it was just sort of like a crash course, and everybody was in the same situation, right? All of ESPN's crew, all of Top Rank staff. It was literally this well-oiled machine of throwing fights Tuesdays and Thursdays because ESPN didn't really have any content. So we were living at MGM Grand. We had a private elevator taking us up to an isolated floor, COVID testing. But to, go back to the sort of the bulk of the question, all of those experiences of whether I was doing a Broadway show or in a locker room playing hockey or bartending to make ends meet, all of that stuff it makes up who I am. You know, I can't really fake who I am. I've got all these goofy experiences in life from what you talked about, what we discussed. And I try to bring that to everything I do, whether it's a business endeavor or hosting a top rank event. You're going to get me, you're going to get all of me. I don't say yes to anything without committing 100%. And I love what I do, and I've got my hand in a lot of pots, but boxing has taken over my life. I love the sport. I love everybody in the sport. The staff at Top Rank that produce these events week in and week out are some of the best in the business. And obviously to have the opportunity to sometimes sit with Bob Arum and just listen to his stories and the history from 66 to where we are now, that's a pretty special opportunity to have. And I certainly don't take any of that for granted. And, I deal with Brad Jacobs all the time, and the guy is just the best in the business. And I'm not just blowing smoke. These are just great people. And at the end of the day, you want to surround yourself with great people. And I'm just so blessed to be around the best. And we haven't even talked about the team that I have in my ear every night: Joe Tessitore, Timothy Bradley Jr., Bernardo Osuna, Christina Poncher, yourself, Jamel Herring. I get to listen to these guys. Mark Kriegel, Mark's storytelling is some of the best in sports. And so I'm sitting ringside with their voices in my ear because I have broadcast being pumped into my earpiece. It's a clinic. It's a clinic every weekend, and I've learned so much and have grown so much in the sport because of the people that I'm around. And I have a lot to learn. By no means am I content with where I am in the sport. So, it's humble pie. I take my licks, I take my notes, and I keep it moving. But I am so blessed to be surrounded by some of the best in the business.
Great people. And, we've talked about this in the past, but even the whole bubble concept, we have to give a shout out to Brad Jacobs and the whole Top Rank team to put something like that together in unprecedented times and, allow people at home to still get entertainment and things like that. And so, definitely a shout out there. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned your hand in different pots, and I know there's a cause that's important to you. And that goes through to Monday's Dark. It's the 10-year anniversary, and I know it's all going down for a good cause. It's going down in Vegas. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So Monday's Dark comes from the fact that Broadway is traditionally dark on Monday. And it's a 90-minute variety show, kind of like Saturday Night Live meets Jimmy Kimmel and all over the place. And I've been doing this thing in Vegas for 10 years. It happens on Monday night. And in 90 minutes, we raise $10,000 for a deserving nonprofit here in Vegas. We've partnered with about 181 nonprofits to date. Each of them have received $10,000 from us and a bunch of awareness, obviously, on social. All the best entertainers from the Strip here in Vegas come together, and you never know who's really going to show up. And in 90 minutes, 2 hours, we raise a ton of money and awareness for various nonprofits here in Vegas. December 11th here in Vegas, Monday night, we're going to take over the Pearl Theater at the Palms. We're going to have 2,000 people in attendance, and we're going to celebrate a decade of giving back to Vegas. This nonprofit is something my wife and I started when we first moved to Vegas. It's something we're passionate about. We spend a lot of time on it. And it's something that we're proud of, right? It's really helped a lot of people in Vegas. What's been great is people stop me at fights now and they see my social media and they're like, "Hey man, love what you do in boxing, but hey, proud of the stuff you're doing in Vegas, that Mondays stuff." And they'll butcher the name. Will be like Dark Mondays or Mondays After Dark. I don't care what they call it. The fact is that they're noticing, this small all volunteer team that we have here at Monday's Dark doing the work that we're doing. And it's just a passion project. We've raised millions for Vegas. We're not going to stop anytime soon, but Monday, December 11th, we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary, and all information's on my social right now. It's all I'm talking about. So go over to my Instagram page. You'll see all the information. Mondaysdark.com is our website. And if you can help us out, help us out. Tickets are always $20. So it's not like it's a big gala, millions of dollars to go or hundreds of bucks for a steak dinner. This is a variety show. It's a goofy party, and we give all the money away. So thank you for bringing it up and letting me talk about it. It's definitely something that, my wife and I are extremely passionate about, and Top Rank's even supported it. They understand the importance of community, and they've embraced it and helped me here and there as well. So it's a cool thing. We're proud of it.
Thank you for what you are doing and giving back. And if you are listening to this show, that means this coming Monday, December 11th, you can go see the show in Vegas. You can contribute to the good cause, and sounds like you can get some good entertainment as well. So just to close it out here, we know that there's actually a great schedule coming up in all of boxing. And just to highlight maybe some of the events that you'll be part of course, we have December 9th, and we talked about Ramirez Espinoza at the top of the show. We got Inoue versus Tapales, and that's going to be for an undisputed super bantamweight championship at the end of December. That's a huge fight with a lot of different implications. A history's possible there. For Inoue to become an undisputed champion at a second division. It's only been done by one man before, and that was Terrence Crawford. Big 2024 ahead, better BF Smith. We got Usyk Fury. So tell me, just to close it out, tell me about what you're excited about for the fights this weekend, and of course the upcoming schedule as well.
Yeah, for me personally, I go from beautiful climate in Florida up to Quebec City in January. That's going to be a battle. First of all, that city's gorgeous. Not so great in January, but it's okay. We'll battle with the snow. It's incredible to think what Top Rank continues to turn out, right? Like it's nonstop. The first quarter of 2024, I think there are 5 or 6 major fights on the docket, and that's January through March. It's unbelievable. So we're going to rack up some air miles in that first quarter, but I don't hate it, man. I like I said, I love the family at Top Rank. I love the crew and guys at ESPN, and it's just going to be a great 2024. And we're going to finish it off with a bang here in Florida. And then, like you said, there's the kid going for a second undisputed title, never been done before other than Bud. So a lot to look forward to in the sport. And across all promotional companies, right? Not just Top Rank. There's some great fights out there. Garcia just put on a show, and I'm happy for him. So the sport is doing incredibly well. I think there's a narrative out there that kind of puts it on the side, and I think that's the furthest thing from the truth. There's just some great fights to be made, and I think 2024 could be a breakout year for a lot of these young guys to sort of set them up for what we talked about earlier with just this, next step stardom in the sport of boxing. And so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's important to highlight in all of boxing, hopefully a lot of these good matchups coming together at the end of December. We're going to see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder in separate fights in action, but hopefully they can come together next year. There's been rumors about Canelo Alvarez's next fight. Maybe Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence rematch could be something that fans could look forward to in 2024. So hopefully a lot of continued good competitive matchups in the sport of boxing. Mark Shunock, I want to thank you so much of the time. Best of luck this weekend on this great card down in South Florida. And please keep doing what you're doing. Please keep hyping up these fans, allowing these fighters to have these epic moments. You're a big part of that. So I want to thank you so much for the time, and thank you for the cause that you're working towards with Monday's Dark, and for everything that you do.
Thanks, brother, for having me on. Listen, your platforms like this allow me to come on and spread the word. So thank you. And to everybody watching, keep them up.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
See ya.